All right, let's dive right into this explainer and check on the health of a seriously critical, but honestly, often totally overlooked component in your car. I'm talking about the clutch slave cylinder. If you're driving a manual transmission, this little part is absolutely vital to your daily commute. And trust me, knowing how to spot when it's struggling, well, that can save you a tremendous amount of stress and, for sure, a whole lot of money.
Today, we're basically going to treat your vehicle like a patient. We'll quickly run through the anatomy of the cylinder, the difference between internal and external setups, the warning signs of failure, the serious safety risks, how the pros repair it, and finally, exactly why this is not a DIY job.
Section 1. Anatomy of the cylinder and how the system works.
At its core, the clutch sleeve cylinder is a small but incredibly mighty, dedicated hydraulic component. It lives right inside your car's powertrain system. Think of it as the crucial mechanical bridge that works alongside your engine, the transmission, and the clutch master cylinder. Its main job? It's getting the power from your engine down to your wheels as smoothly as humanly possible so you can actually drive and shift gears.
Picture the journey of hydraulic pressure every single time your foot presses down on that clutch pedal. First, the master cylinder pushes fluid through a line. Then that pressure travels directly down to the slave cylinder. That pressure causes a piston to extend, which pushes the clutch fork. This frees or disengages the clutch disc from the flywheel so you can shift. And finally, the second you release the pedal, it retracts. It's really this brilliant instant chain reaction of fluid dynamics.
Section 2. Internal versus external types and where it lives. Now, there are two common mounting types, and you need to know which one you have because they dramatically impact the cost of any potential repair. An external cylinder is bolted right to the outside of the transmission bell housing. It's accessible and generally a lot easier to replace. But on the flip side, the internal or concentric type is mounted deep inside the transmission. It's actually built entirely around the input shaft. Getting to this internal type is incredibly labor-intensive.
Just a quick side note here for clarity, automatic transmissions do not have this part at all. If your car shifts gears automatically without you ever touching a third pedal, you are completely off the hook. But if you're rowing your own gears with a manual clutch pedal, your car almost certainly relies on this exact system.
Section 3. Warning signs and identifying the symptoms. So, when things start to go sideways mechanically inside that sealed system, how exactly does your car communicate that failure to you? Well, it turns out your car is going to give you some very distinct physical, auditory, and visual clues. The first group of symptoms are things you'll literally feel right in your left foot. We're talking about that heart-stopping moment when the clutch pedal just sinks straight to the floorboards and stays down, completely dead. Or maybe the pedal starts feeling incredibly spongy, soft, or just noticeably loose when you press it. Actually, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the pedal might suddenly feel unusually hard or incredibly stiff. Basically, any of these dramatic changes in pedal resistance, massive red flags.
And that pedal feel cascades into the mechanical response of the transmission itself. If the cylinder can't disengage the clutch properly, you are going to hear terrible, awful grinding noises when you try to shift. You might find yourself practically wrestling the shifter to get it into gear, or realize the gears simply won't engage no matter what you do. In really severe cases, your engine might even stall out completely at a stop sign because the vehicle physically won't pop out of gear.
You also need to rely on your eyes and ears here. You might hear a distinct squeaking or squealing noise every time you press the clutch. Visually, you might find fluid pooling on the floorboards right near your pedals, or notice that your clutch fluid reservoir under the hood is constantly running low. And hey, if you check that reservoir and the fluid looks dark, cloudy, or contaminated, yeah, you're definitely looking at a hydraulic system in major distress.
The root cause behind all of these incredibly frustrating symptoms is internal hydraulic failure. Remember, the slave cylinder relies entirely on being a perfectly sealed hydraulic system. Once those internal rubber seals wear out over time, or the actual metal cylinder bore gets pitted and corroded, you lose that vital fluid pressure. It either leaks internally past the seal or drips externally. And without that pressure, the clutch simply cannot fully engage or disengage. That's exactly what gives you that sinking, spongy, totally unresponsive feeling.
Section 4. The serious safety risks when things go wrong.
Now, this is a point we absolutely cannot gloss over. A failing slave cylinder is not just an annoyance, it's a critical safety issue. Because this single component completely controls how engine power reaches your wheels, ignoring it puts you in real danger.
Imagine cruising down the highway and experiencing a sudden, total loss of power to your wheels.
Or picture being stuck in chaotic bumper-to-bumper traffic or at a busy four-way stop and being totally unable to shift out of gear when you desperately need to move. Unpredictable clutch responses dramatically increase your risk of an accident because they literally remove your direct control over the vehicle's momentum.
Section 5. Professional Diagnostic and Repair. Basically, the treatment plan.
So what's the actual fix here? Well, there are no quick bandages in this scenario. Repairing a bad slave cylinder almost always means full replacement. It's not a patch job. The component is entirely compromised, and trying to patch it up simply isn't a viable or safe long-term option.
A professional mechanic is going to follow a pretty rigorous process. First, they have to properly diagnose and confirm the slave cylinder is actually the culprit. Next, they have to physically access it. And remember, if you've got that internal concentric type, this means they literally have to pull the entire transmission out of the vehicle. Then they remove the failed unit and install the new one. Usually, they'll actually recommend replacing the clutch master cylinder at the exact same time, since both parts tend to wear out at the exact same rate. Finally, they completely flush out the old hydraulic fluid, refill it with fresh fluid, and meticulously bleed the system to get rid of any trapped air, making sure the pedal feel is perfect.
Section 6. Why you cannot DIY this and really need to leave it to the pros.
Look, you might be tempted to tackle this in your driveway, but unless you have real, specialized experience with manual transmissions and hydraulic systems, you need to put the wrench down. The cylinder requires incredibly precise alignment during installation. If you leave even a tiny, microscopic amount of trapped air in the hydraulic line during the bleed process, you're going to end up with a spongy or completely failed clutch. And honestly, the biggest risk? Making a mistake here can cause severe, permanent transmission damage, turning what should have been a standard component repair into an absolute financial disaster.
This quote really hits the nail on the head and summarizes the core lesson of our explainer today. Catching a slave cylinder issue early is a lot cheaper than dealing with transmission damage later. If you are noticing any combination of a soft pedal, hard shifting, or you see fluid leaking, get it checked out immediately. Proactive, professional care is always your smartest move.
I'll leave you with this final provocative thought as we wrap up today's explainer. When was the last time you actually checked your clutch fluid? Taking just 2 minutes to pop the hood and check for that dark, cloudy fluid we talked about could literally be the difference between a simple, scheduled fix and being completely stranded in traffic. Stay ahead of these mechanical failures, listen to what your car is trying to tell you, and keep yourself safely on the road.